taking a break with Bob Torppa from Grays River, lifetime resident and a very successful businessman. And I look forward to getting to talk to Bob because he's my neighbor and my friend. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
The reason I wanted to invite you to be on the show is you have a great perspective on the logging industry. And you moved from going to work right out of high school?
Right.
Or before you were out of high school?
I actually worked for Nacelle Rock and Asphalt between my junior and senior year, and then after I graduated also. But then I went to work in the woods.
Who'd you go to work for?
I worked for Weyerhaeuser in Grays River Camp.
Wow. So what was that like to come out of high school and go right to work in the woods?
It was a change for sure because I grew up on my dad's farm mostly. And so it was a big change, big equipment, yeah.
Did you start as a choker setter or?
Yes, yep, choker setter on the...
That's dangerous hard work.
Yes.
But you made it out. Oh, and I remember you donating some gear for climbing.
Right.
So it's down in the logging room. So you must have been a climber too.
That was later on when I worked for Jerry DeBry.
Ah.
Jerry DeBry Logging in Cathlamet. Did some high climbing for him, rigged some trees, stuff like that.
Was that scary?
No, not then.
Would you do it today?
No.
You would not do it today. I cannot certainly.
I don't think my body would let me do it today.
That's true.
So.
That's true. You have to be young and a little crazy.
Correct.
To do that.
Yes.
Did you enjoy working for Weyerhaeuser?
Yeah, I mean it was hard work.
Uh-huh.
I learned at an early age, a good work ethic. So I always worked hard as I could, tried to, position myself to be as good an employee as I could, and hopefully that would move me up the ladder, so to speak.
Did you have safety norms and regulations change since that time? Equipment, hard hats, I know you had those back then, but were there safety trainings back when you started?
Yeah, even back in the early 80s, Weyerhaeuser was very safety-minded. Not as much as now, but they were very safety-minded. There were safety meetings once a month, and then there was always talk of safety in the mornings before we went to work and such. But yeah, hard hats, eye protection, shaps and stuff if you're running a power saw.
It's changed a bit though. The hard hats are different and there's more.
Well, yeah, they have the new different materials that they build it out of, but you can still just get the regular old tin hard hat.
Yep, the same old thing.
Yeah.
What was, if you don't mind my asking, what was the worst accident you ever saw? One that stands up in your mind.
I was pretty lucky. I've seen a couple accidents, but they ended up not being, really bad accidents.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could have been, but I was lucky. Most of the really bad accidents apparently happened at Weyerhaeuser prior to me even getting there. They had some fatalities and stuff like that that was pretty fresh in everybody's minds when I got there in the early 80s.
So by then people stopped and thought about it a bit.
Yeah, there was just a lot of safety talk about what you can do to prevent from getting yourself in that situation.
When you were a young logger, I am assuming that there were older loggers who had fingers missing, or they'd had lost a foot, or some in an accident that they had been maimed in some way. Not too many?
Yeah, there was a little bit of that, not a lot. Just a lot of friendly advice from the older hook tenders and people like that. I remember Francis Zayak always saying that if you didn't learn something today, you might want to get out of the logging industry. So that always stuck in my mind.
Well, wouldn't that be great for every industry?
Oh,
Everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you didn't learn something.
Yeah.
Move on to something else.
Right.
Well, then I've always been intrigued by, the situation when I first moved here and lived next door to you. I didn't meet you for quite a while because you were working, I think, for Weyerhaeuser up to the north, and you were gone during the week and came home for the weekends.
Right. Yeah, that was the early days of my business when
Right.
I
Okay.
was just a one-man operation. And so I worked out of the Raymond Warehouser camp, contracted there. Actually, Keith Metcalf was my contract administrator at the time. And so I would travel clear to Raymond every day from here
Wow.
and then work like a lot of times a 12-hour day and then drive back home.
That was tough. Where did you live at that time?
I lived in Grays River on Loop Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same place. Okay.
Yeah.
I seem to remember you lived up the Eloquement at one point.
Yeah, in the mid 80s, work got pretty tough around here. Warehouser went
Oh,
down.
after Crown closed.
Crown Zellerback went out. And so there was some moving around. We actually lived in Montesano for almost a year, and I worked for Mayer Brothers up there on the rigging. So they went out of business. I ended up moving back to the Longview area to find work. So we moved from Montesano to the Eloquement up by Cathlamet, and we lived there. And I did work for Crown Zellerback at the end of their tenure in Cathlamet, and went from there to Jerry DeBry's. Worked for Jerry DeBry for about 16 years.
Oh, 16. That's longer than I thought.
Yeah.
Now, as I remember, from what I've learned, when Crown left, they just left. They didn't give a lot of warning. Is that true?
They were probably a little better than Weyerhaeuser. Weyerhaeuser's just kind of pulled out
Oh,
and left everybody hanging. Crown Zellerback took care of their guys pretty good as far as the exit plan, but still they were gone once they were gone. But
yeah.
there were still people to work for, just that the big companies were gone.
So, what drew you into deciding to start your own business?
Well, getting up at 2 a.m. I think was probably a big portion of that, but also I had done off and on throughout my career, bouncing from one logger to the other. I had done quite a bit of road building, but never steady.
So, who did you? I always see in my head the young guys coming in and the older men who were experienced training them.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't necessarily still happening today, but then there aren't as many jobs in the woods.
Yeah, it's a little tougher. When I first worked for Weyerhaeuser at 19 years old, I worked on the rigging for about 6-8 months, and at that point it was a union job, so you could bid on jobs. And at 6 or 8 months into it, I was lucky enough to get a maintenance backhoe or excavator, I should say, bid, and so I started running a backhoe, which introduced me to Raymond Badger, who was a longtime employee who taught me a whole bunch.
He would.
I ended up kind of being the all-around guy that just did this and that. A lot of that came from early years of being on a farm and running tractors
Sure.
and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So hydraulic equipment was easy for me, and it became very apparent to people around me that I could pick things up pretty quickly as far as hydraulic machines. So that helped me out, further down the road in my work career, because once I got into like working for DeBry, I ended up running building road, loading logs.
Uh-huh.
I even did the high climbing, the hook tending, and stuff like that also, though.
Was Jerry, of course, I don't know how old he was when he started his business. He must have been fairly young.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was really young, but I think he started out with a partner. I don't remember the exact details
Yeah.
about all of that, but
He and Mark partnered at the loading.
at the sorting yard in
Yeah,
Cathlamet.
in Cathlamet. Yeah.
Mark Lindquist and Jerry DeBry.
Yeah, they did that.
Co-venture,
And they
yeah.
both did well with that.
Yeah.
Well, and I know Angie must have been very supportive of you starting your own business.
Well, starting a business like that where you have a lot of overhead is never easy, because it takes a good-sized bank loan, which is hard to get. Just coming from a normal working person to a commercial loan is always tough, that first one. So, there was plenty of sleepless nights, I think, by both of us, about getting a loan that big. I mean, we had never
Seen that much money.
Right. Exactly. And so that was a challenge right off the start.
But she's always been a good partner with you.
She's always done the books for me, and definitely a good partner.
Yeah.
And she's learned to kind of flow with the punches, I think, so to speak.
And
Because business, being in business for yourself, there's always highs and lows, and you just have to kind of roll through the economy and ride the wave.
so, how old were you when you started your business? Do you remember?
That was in 2001, so yeah, I was probably about 41-ish, something like that.
That's about right. I mean, that's a
in
good
there.
time to start
Yeah,
on your own.
41,
That gives you
42.
20 years to work, and before you've, pooped out, your body says no more.
Yeah, absolutely.
That, because you're up there, rain or shine, snow, whatever.
Right. I worked about 8 or 9 years, just a one-man band, so to speak. But then was offered another contract with Weyerhaeuser and expanded at that point. Got a couple employees, and then the economy kind of tanked again, and so we had to kind of revert back to no employees, and I was the only one working again for another year or so. And once the economy picked back up, then we were able to get employees again and kind of move forward from there.
And acquire equipment.
Right, and get more equipment,
Get
more
more
people.
equipment,
We
yeah.
were probably up to about 12 employees at one time, I suppose. We're at about 7 right now.
Yeah.
Well, 7.5, including yourself. Sometimes.
One reason I know Bob so well is that I've worked for Bob off and on for 10 years, and you've just always been a really good employer. Really,
thank you.
really good. And I know your guys come home tired.
Oh yeah.
And your crew's getting older,
Aren't we all?
aren't we all?
Yeah.
The ups and downs of the timber industry have always impressed me. That for one thing, your regular guy who's out in the woods, he doesn't, unless he's got the radio on, he doesn't really know what's going on in the world, or his phone.
Right. I think they understand that the economy's up or down. I don't know that they know the total meaning of that to a business.
Right. Right.
Sometimes it has a lingering effect even. Once the economy starts picking back up, the businesses still are a little sluggish
Yeah.
through some of that.
But you would look for work for them. You keep them busy.
Yeah.
That's the part I quite admire in you. You'll go out and slug, and you'll
Right.
slog through it and find some work for them to do. So, what is it that you like best about owning your own company?
I guess being my own boss,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And kind of having control of my own time
absolutely.
to a degree.
Yes.
There's certain requirements that you just have to get done, but for the most part, you can sort of, just like today, I have the opportunity to come down here and chat with you. So it's pretty nice.
One of the things that I have noticed is now that you have grandchildren, if you need to pick up your grandson from school, you'll make the time.
Right, or drive them to school in the morning.
Or driving to school in the morning. But I remember also you mentioning to me quite a while ago, as I remember, that you didn't get that time with your son Brian.
When my son was young, it was a tough time because it was early 80s and I was on the road a lot just for work. It's unfortunate, really, that, it seems like it's just a super busy time as far as just trying to stay employed, for one thing.
Yeah.
And
But
so,
he has turned out to be a very successful man.
yeah, he does pretty good for himself.
He works. Is he still with Boeing?
He's not with Boeing's anymore. He worked for Boeing for about 10 years as an IT project manager, and then some other jobs he was classified. He couldn't really tell me what they were. But now he works for Edward Jones. I think it's a financial institution
It
of
is
some
a
sort.
very large one.
Yeah, and so he really likes that. He's working at home, so he enjoys
Life
that.
is good.
Yeah.
Life is good. I know that he loves coming home and seeing his niece and nephew. So
yeah.
we see a bit more of him than we used to.
Yeah, they love to see Uncle Brian.
Yeah, he's very generous
Oh, yeah.
with what they need. So the other piece that's real impressive to me is that you have been married to your high school sweetheart for how many years?
43,
43 years with one woman.
right?
And you have a couple rules for your marriage that just crack me up. One of it says, a happy wife is a happy life.
Right. I think that goes worldwide, right?
That's, well, I don't know that everybody puts that in front of their eyes when they look in the mirror in the morning and they're pissed with her or him. But,
never that.
oh, no, never that. But she is very patient in her own way. Angie is just about as calm a person as I've ever met. Things, she's the calm side and you get more excited, or more hyper a little bit. I don't know what the right word is. But when the stuff hits the fan, you work together very well. And you plan your playtimes, and she insists on playtime and traveling. And now you have your motorhome, so you get to get out more. Now you're at the age where it seems to me you're considering not closing, but winding down a little bit as far as your time with the business.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to step back a little bit and take more time to travel and spend more time with our grandkids and stuff.
Well, you're very lucky in that you have a lot. Your employees are capable of working independently.
Usually I only need to be on site once, maybe twice a week, just to kind of see how things are going and throw my 2 cents in there.
But the one who goes tootling by my house in road grader is you most of the time.
Some, yes, when I have to.
Yeah. And when the weather's really, really bad, I think there are many timber owners who are glad you're there.
Oh, yeah. Without us, they can't get to work.
Oh,
because of the snow.
And that's one reason you've succeeded is because you're so close to Fossil Creek.
Yeah, I mean, who
You're
would
right
have thought?
there.
Who would have thought Grays River, Washington, would be the right place to be? But fortunately, there was a tree farm that was ripe for the picking.
Yeah.
And we happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
It's all about timing.
And they all speak very highly of you. Anytime I've seen or met, up at the shop, guys working in the woods, there's only good things said about you.
Right.
And you work hard at that to keep those relationships good and trust.
Number one.
Yeah, Ken Johnson and I were just talking about trust, and he said you can't just say you're trustworthy; you have to show it.
Yeah.
And so I think you've done that with him. So how has the industry changed since you started?
Well, when I first started, there were basically no hydraulic machines. There were a few backhoe and rubber-mounted excavators, but there was nothing like the log loaders and processors and excavators and things like there is now. So everything is basically mechanized, with the exception of still you have to have some choker setters and stuff on the ground. They've tried to eliminate people on the ground just because of the safety factor.
Oh.
And so, there's so many different types of new ways to log that keeps people off the ground, and that's been the biggest push for safety, is to keep people off the ground.
Well, it just seems to me that the folks that are like the choker setters, they're just sitting at danger all the time. You have to be careful where you go.
Yeah.
You have to be careful how you move over a log that's just come down.
Yeah, you have to keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah,
And hopefully you're pretty fleet of foot, because there's always hazards.
Yeah, well, it always amazes me how noisy it is, because with the machinery running, and then you've got the beep 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 on the car. Is that what it's called, the car?
Oh yeah, sky car.
The sky car. That's scary too, to be underneath one of those.
Yeah, that's the carriage that runs on the skyline.
Right. It's pretty. It seems to me it's the way it was, like 100, 150 years ago. It was probably pretty much done the same way as far as getting logs out of
basically
the timber. Yeah, getting the logs out.
Same method, just now they've been able to, technology, the equipment's so much better, and everything is mechanized now to where that hardly any people on the ground now.
And there's computers in the machines. That's just amazing.
Oh yeah.
And you have to learn how to run those machines by computer, just like our cars.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And considering they started with oxen, and different ways of getting
steam donkeys.
I saw a photo yesterday on Facebook of 2 bears.
Oh yeah.
A man in California trained those bears to be a team to pull logs, and I thought, I wonder where he gets the food to feed those puppies.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's move to you being coach.
Okay.
So you've been a coach for quite a while. What back then in those years?
Well, fortunately, when my son was in the 4th grade, I went to one of their practices, and the person that was the coach really didn't have a lot of basketball experience, and so I was trying to help. And the next thing I know, I was coaching because I had played for Lyle Patterson.
And you were the captain.
Right.
Yeah.
And so one thing led to another. I moved up as my son got older. I went from the 4th grade to the 5th grade and the 6th grade, and moved right on up. So yeah, I coached for overall 18 years at grade school level, middle school level, junior varsity level, and the varsity level. Now actually I'm coaching my grandson. He's in the 1st grade. And
in which sport?
Basketball.
Of course. Basketball was a good sport for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you went through the coaching period, and now you're back with your grandson. I bet that is so fun.
It's very interesting coaching 1st graders. Their attention span is very short, so it's challenging. Very challenging, but it's very fun to work with the little kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your granddaughter is not at all undemanding.
No, she pretty much rules the world.
She does.
At least the world right around her.
Yeah, and you don't want to tell her no because you're going to suffer.
Yeah. She's very strong-willed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And independent.
Very.
And very smart. But I'm not partial to her at all. And family has become extremely important to you as you get older, seems like.
Oh, I think it always has been. It's just that I got more time to maybe dedicate to that and make sure that the people around me, because I do have the time, maybe help out however I can or whatever I can do for family.
And you did serve on the school board.
I did. Yeah, 2 different times.
2 different times. So you're
almost 10 years total.
Yeah. So you've been service oriented. Is that something you learned from your dad?
I think so. I don't think it was any one thing. I think it was just growing up when my dad was county commissioner, and he would sometimes not really have a choice. He'd have to take us to a commissioners meeting.
Oh.
And we were told to sit and be quiet during the meeting. That went pretty well. And so, I think it made quite an impression, going through that. I don't know that I ever would have really pursued being on the school board. I was actually called and asked if I would run, or actually asked if I would fill a position that was vacant. Mm-hmm. And so I volunteered, and then I had to run for the board and got that, and learned a lot about school business being on the board.
Well, to my experience, you've always been a learner. You like to take on new things.
Challenges, sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, even learning to run the road grader computer and all that can be a challenge.
Right.
And if you were to ever, but of course, you can do most anything because you have a 470.
Right.
Yes.
You can move.
That's our motto. We can do most anything.
If you have a big enough excavator, you can do a lot.
And you can move that great big rock or crack it in half, whatever you have to do.
That's right.
That's right, yeah. Well, I remember when you got the 470, I was impressed. I mean, that's a big puppy.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
Pretty big for around here.
When you were getting that business started, did you ever think you'd have a 470?
I didn't know what I was going to have, to be honest with you.
You just wanted a paycheck.
Just working as hard as I could and trying to make what I could as long as I could.
Well, I as having worked in the shop for 10 years, I am very proud of everybody at Torppa Construction. Just want you to know that.
Thank you.
Very, very proud. Proud to have you my neighbor. And I knew that if anything really happened and I needed help right away, you would be there. And I remember I had an accident last year, and you said, "How come you went with Jesse?" Because of course I tried
3
you
second
first.
rule.
Yeah, that 3-second rule, right? Well, thank you for being here today. This has been a real fun time.
Thanks.
It's always nice to have a chance to talk with you and get more information. Well, thank you for joining us today on Take a Break with Karen. We hope you'll come back with us the next time. And thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.